Okay, let's do this thing. Get my mic ready. Me. What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. It's your boy, Coach Vic, back at it again with another episode. Damn, I sound like what's his name? Um, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, you guys can hear me and see me okay because today I'm talking about your offers, your offer letters, or postcards, or texts, or whatever you're doing, and all the other ways you're trying to help yourself get more deals. So it all started with this. I first went into the group, what is yesterday? So on February 1st, and I asked, how did your January of 2022 go? And I'm like, how much money did you make? And not many people answered, which is fine. I made about 24K in land deals, a lot of them, mostly smaller deals, probably all small deals, and one small to medium-ish deal. And the reason why I was able to get all these deals, it isn't because I'm doing anything super unique or anything like that. And I don't have some magical area that nobody else knows about. I have competition just like everybody else. But there's some things that I do that make it so I get more callbacks, so I get more people wheeling and dealing instead of just outright saying no. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to get a lot of people saying no. You're going to get a lot of people because they don't want to sell for any price. They just want to keep their property for whatever reason. Other people, they overvalue the land, and you're not going to be able to logically tell them your land is not worth as much as you think it is. So I don't waste time with that. But in general, I am getting a lot of callbacks, even in new areas, not just areas I'm familiar with and where I have the pricing nailed down, but new areas. I got a bunch that I'm gonna have to go through, and actually, I'll count for you how many I have. But the reason why I want to go to this is because I hear a lot of people are having trouble getting their offers accepted or just getting people to talk to them back. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. So as always, see me, hear me, okay, all that good stuff. I want to make sure I'm loud and clear. But other than that, let's jump into it. So first things first, let's look at it this way. When you are sending out offers, whether it's texting or mailing, whatever, you want to get someone interested in what you're in selling their land. Okay. But listen, if your ad copy is bad or if your prices are way off, nobody's going to want to work with you. There's actually an extra element in there. There's a lot of wholesalers out there because I just got another deal today. I'm gonna buy this property for about $1,300. I'm looking to sell for about 5 or 6. So a nice traditional thing. I was talking to the owner today and he was telling me like, hey, so do I got to pay anything to make this happen? Is there any other catches? I'm like, no, there's no catch. And in case you're new, what I like to do is I like to pay for my property up front. Yeah, they'll sign a buyer's agreement and stuff like that. So, makes it all nice and tidy and all that. But I pay for the property and I send the deed at the same time. They can cash the check. It's a cashier's check too, not a personal check, anytime they want. And then notarize the deed and send it back. I've been doing this for 5 years. It's been working great, and it's a lot faster than other methods. Now, other times I got to use a title company because I'm using a funder or something like that. But in general, this is how I like to work. When I was talking to this individual, he was telling me how there was people who tried to scam him, who tried to play the game of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy your property for this screaming great price for you. So let's just say the property worth 5,000, and let's say the person said I'll buy for like 4,000 or 3,500 or something. But they're like, oh, but you got to pay these closing costs. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that, and then it turned them off. Another one tried to be like, yeah, I'm going to overpay for the property, and you're going to send me money back. You heard of one of those scams, right? So when we're out in the field right now, this is what we're dealing with. People who make the buying process more complicated, legitimate scammers, maybe from overseas, maybe not, and people who are just not good at what they do, and they're probably wholesaling. And they're hoping to find something in the meantime by tying you up in a process with them who ain't got nobody, who ain't got no money, who ain't got no prospects, and they're just slowing things down. So this is what we're dealing with. So this is why this talk is coming at a great time. It's very important. So what I want to do is show you how to maximize your time and minimize your out-of-pocket expenses, because I think that's what's more important while still worrying, going through the whole thing and not dealing with these other people who make buying more difficult because they leave a bad taste in the whole market's mouth. All right, so here's the thing. I want you to understand something. There are two parts to the offer that really matter. And then there will be some other things that will encompass that. But the main part, the meat of this is two things. One is the price. Two is how you state that price. Now, let me explain. So in the old days, I used to just get the price from the assessed value and divide that by 4. Sometimes I still do that when I have no other data to work with. And I think it's better than not doing anything or just putting out a blind offer, because you'll have something, because at least the value is based on something. The county's assessor or appraisal district or whatever you want to say, depending on the county, they did some kind of mathematical formula looking at sales and other things that they have access to, and they try to get an assessment for the property so they know how much to tax the person. Granted, a lot of that assessment price isn't necessarily based on what the market is saying, but it's better than nothing. Those prices, while better than nothing, aren't great. So when I was actually sending out offers, and I'm not going to talk about what I said first, I didn't get a lot of responses. I did get some, and when you're in areas that aren't very popular, it'll probably work. It'll probably work pretty well. But when your area is a little bit more competitive, and again, you got people who are doing shady things, you got people who are just not good at this job, and they're trying to get their deal going, and it's kind of, they're doing a in a sloppy way. Using just the assessed price and getting a percentage of that is not going to cut it. I'm sorry. So I know a lot of people ask, like, what percentage should I offer? That depends. That totally depends. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit. Now, if you are in a nice or a better or a worse area, the assessed price will be fine. But again, it's not going to cut it in most areas, especially with the competition. After I stopped doing that nonsense, I went to look at the market, and I looked at what's on the market. I like to go to Zillow, because Zillow gives me a lot of analytics quickly. I can say, okay, in this county over here or this town over here, I can see vacant land is going, the starting price I see is $10,000. Let's just say. I'm like, okay, great. And it goes from 10 to 15 to 20, right? And just, for the different listings. So I'm like, okay, as an investor, I'm not going to pay $10,000. I just know that's what I can sell for when I finally have something. So that means I want to be in the ballpark of paying roughly $2,500, $3,000, right? That's where I would like to be ideally. So about a third or a quarter of the price. However, since I know I'm going to be selling for around 10K and it might actually sell for 9 or 8, if I still buy for 5 and I sell for 8, I will still do that deal. Now, am I proud of that deal? Is that something I'm going to try to repeat? Probably not. But let's look at it realistically. I took 5,000, I turned into 8,000. Not a great ROI, but it's still pretty cool. And it's still a pretty high percentage. And normally, how quickly I normally sell, it's going to be hard to beat that in any other investing formula. But using just what you can sell for and basing the price off of that is okay. But there is some issues, because number one, you're just looking at things that are listed on the market. You don't know what it's actually going to sell for. That's why I always underestimate how much I'll get. So if I think I can sell for 10, I'm gonna think I'm gonna sell for 9 or 8.5 or something like that. But you don't really know. Number two, sometimes people don't report what they sold for. So when you're looking at different comps and things like that, you don't really know. So it's kind of hard to get an accurate assessment. So you got to worry with that. Now, in certain subdivisions, this is fine, right? You don't need it to be that accurate. You don't need it to be that great. You just need a close enough ballpark, and you're in there. Now, in general, when I work with this, when I do this method, and I haven't gone to the next step I do as well, it relies a lot more on conversation with people, a lot more phone calls, a lot more texting as opposed to mailing. Now, if I send out a mailer and they have that low ball offer and they accept it, I'm like, hey, as long as this offer works for you, I'm good. Now, there's times when they call me back saying, yeah, this offer isn't good, but I do want to work with you. Then this is the same thing as me having a lot more conversations as well as texting somebody. And if I say, hey, this is what I want to offer, and they say, well, that's not enough, I'm like, well, how much do you want? I can kind of gauge from there how serious they are. Now, in these conversations, I can do one of two things. One, I can kind of use the logic approach where I'm like, okay, well, I see you want more for the property. Well, what are you basing that off of? Why do you want more? But I mean, besides the obvious. Is it because you know you can get that price, or you're just speculating? Is it because you saw your neighbor sell for or had it listed for a certain price, but you don't really know what they sold for, or what? If you did see what your neighbor sold for and you know how much they got, do you have like a similar lot, similar size, similar features? Is their lot cleared and yours is full of trees? Is there a little bit bigger? Is it has access to a road? There's other things that I ask them about that to help them understand, like, look, I know you want to get more, but you're not going to get it doing what you're doing here. So from there, if we can come to a little bit of a middle ground, then I don't mind going a little bit higher. Now, that strategy is a little more risky when you're in a new area, a brand new area you never worked in before. You don't really know. You're still kind of using your research to kind of guide you. It's a little bit more risky. But with that said, if you're paying a small amount of money, of $500, $300, 400, something like that, 600, 800, I think it's okay to take that risk, because even if you end up selling for $1,200, $1,500, that is actually still money in your pocket. And if you're buying it for $300, $400, and you sell for 15, you tripled your money. You more than tripled your money, actually. So those are things to take into account. Now, when you're at higher amounts and all that, then you got to be a little bit better when it comes to your negotiation. So far, is this making sense? I don't want to make sure this goes over anybody's head or that I'm going too fast and I need to explain something a little more cleanly. I think we're good. I think we're good so far. All right, awesome. Now let's keep going. Now, sometimes when I send out my offer based on, hey, I'm gonna start with a quarter of the price I want to sell for, or what the market is asking for. And obviously I have that wiggle room to go from a quarter to about half, depending on the margins and things like that. Sometimes I'm looking to see what type of responses I get. And if I get nothing, well, that tells me something. That's a little bit of feedback. Number one, what I offered isn't going to be enough. Now, I don't know if it's not enough because other people are getting offers. I can always assume that there's somebody, I'm not the only one in town trying to buy property there. So there's that. But it also can be that I stumbled upon an area that's a little bit more lucrative and a little higher dollar than the research indicates. That's normally not the case, but there's, I think, one time where that happened, we're like, oh my God, actually the area I'm in now, it's actually starting to blow up. It's a brand new area. I just started talking to people last couple of weeks, and it's starting to blow up. But with that said, I do got a bunch of deals on the table using the techniques I'm talking about now. How many do I have? Well, that's a good question. Let me find out. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got 11 potential deals. Not going to take them all. Not everybody, we're not going to come to a great conclusion, but these are people who are interested in what I have to say. We have talked. They do want to sell. Sometimes they gave me an offer, sometimes they haven't, but I have to do my research to see if I can come close to what they want and see what I'm going to get in the back end. But it all comes down to these conversations. And without these conversations, I wouldn't know that I'm in a better area than I realized, that my initial research indicated. Now, can't just take their word for it, but it does. Looking at what's going on, getting to know the area, seeing that area compared to other areas I've been in the past, I'm like, I can understand why people will want more, and I can understand why some people are looking to actually, buy property there, move there, or whatever it is. I actually got tipped off about this new area by someone that I'm buying property for, and he was like, yeah, see if you can find something in this county for me. So that's how I got there, and I'm thinking it's going to be a bunch of crap lots, but they're actually pretty nice. So it is what it is. Now, here's the thing. Using the price from the market and all that, and it's getting a percentage of that, a quarter of it, a third of it, or even half of it, that's okay. And it works pretty damn well. And I use that most of the time. But there's times where you need to be more precise. These are areas that are a little bit more competition, maybe a little higher dollar. Maybe there's a tale of two cities, so to speak. Not just the best of times or worst of times, but it's talking about, like, on the west side, things are nicer. On the east side, things are crappier. And you don't want to put high offers for crappy land and low offers for good land. And the reason why, well, obviously, if you overpay for bad property, that's going to be a problem selling. You don't have property you're holding on to. You don't have any flexibility on price and negotiation. You're going to have a bad time. French fries pizza, all right? But if you actually do the opposite and you're giving low dollar amounts to higher value land, you're not going to get any responses, and you may even get a couple angry phone calls or two. Now, most times I don't get that, but depending on how you're connecting with people, if you're texting, you might get some angry texts of people laughing at you, things like that. It doesn't really bother me. It just tells me, okay, I was a little low in this area, and that tells me, hey, maybe I need to dig deeper. If it's just one person being delusional, all right, let's whatever, brush it off. I get 2, 3, 4 people saying, no, what are you talking about? That's way too low. Got it. Now I look deeper, and this is what I do. I start to get an accurate price per acre. Now, I try to do this before I even get started mailing in the first place, depending on the data I have available. But sometimes I just don't have the time or the interest to do it because I'm like, I don't really know about this place. I don't know if I want to be here that long. I don't know how much research I want to do. But if I'm getting some indication like this place actually might be pretty cool, it might be pretty lucrative, I'm going to get it more detailed, more precise. And what I'm going to do is find a different area, parts of town, using things like Zillow, LandWatch, Data Tree, even PropStream. And I'm going to use their draw tools to kind of segment certain parts of town or the county and just see what are the areas, what are the prices going over here? What are the prices going on over here? What about up north? What about down south? Whatever. And just kind of get a good assessment. And then if I can get some actual comps of things on the market, things that are off market, and find out where they are and what subdivisions they are in. And once I find that out, I can be like, okay, get a couple comp per subdivision. I can get a price per acre, and I can get a good idea of what the subdivision, what kind of things are in the subdivision. If I can't do subdivision, again, I'll just kind of use a general area, and that will help me understand what I'm working with. And then I can actually say, okay, seeing what looking at the data now, and I'm a little bit more detailed, I can see, do I want to be in this area or not? Is this something that's going to support my investment goals or not? Are the 4 or 5 people I talked to were delusional? I just happen to talk to the crazy people and everybody else is going to be normal? Or am I going to deal with more of this and the stuff, people just overvaluing their property? I get a better look at that when I'm looking at price per acre per subdivision or per area. Now, doing this also, I can segment my contacts. Like if I know that the west side, again, is better than the east side in this particular town, I make sure that anybody that's on the east side will not get a letter from me because I don't want to deal with their property. I only make sure I mail to the west side. You can segment your list that way. Again, you can't do that until you do the price per acre calculation and start to understand where are people buying, where are they selling, how much are they going for in general. All right. Now, sometimes trying to get the price per acre is tough. So I'll use an assessed value with that as well. It's not very accurate compared to using actual comps, actual on market things. But again, sometimes it's the best you can have, and there's no perfect data. So you just got to do what you can with what you got. All right. So that's the offer. Hopefully that made sense. Let me know if you guys have any questions, because I wasn't even looking to see if anybody had any questions. Who's in the chat today? Oh, I don't know, Eric. I don't know. This is the general Facebook group. So not everybody from the coaching group checks out the live streams. So yeah. Anyways, next. So we talked about the offer. Make sure that's good. What about the actual ad copy? Well, the ad copy kind of breaks down into 2 areas that I like to think about. One is actually what you say to them for, hey, I want to buy a property and why I want to buy it. So I don't use letters anymore. I use postcards because they're easier and they're quicker. And in letters, oftentimes I notice that people, from what I've heard, they see something in an envelope, they can tell it's not a bill or something important. They automatically assume it's junk mail. They don't see it. They rip it up and throw it in the recycling bin. Postcard, they may do the same thing, but if at a very quick glance, they can see exactly what it is, and if they're interested in even reading more. And so because of that, you got to have a good headline, a nice headline that's going to grab their attention. And because you only get, what, 2 or 3 seconds. Now, what that headline can be, it could be, attention, we've been trying to reach you. I don't like that one personally because it puts a negative connotation and a negative tone to the whole thing. But you can still use it. I like to use just their name. And I have up front, I am looking to purchase your vacant land property. So far, it seems to work. I've been using this for a couple of years. It seems to work pretty well for me. Yeah, Eric agrees. Everybody reads a postcard, not everybody reads letters. Um, and then from there, I was like, look, you got vacant land here. I want to buy it. This is the price range I'm looking to give for a property in this area. A lot of people these days, they want to either put a blind offer, which is a waste of everybody's time, meaning here, I'm gonna pay you $10 or $50 or $1,237.36 for your property. And I'm not saying that just to talk shit. I used to do that and it works okay, but not as effective as postcards. So that's one. Two, I also try to say where the property is and things like that so they know. But then I tell them how easy it's going to be to work with me. Hey, you're not going to pay any you're not going to pay any fees, you're not going to pay any closing costs, you ain't got to pay your back taxes. I'll do all that, and I like to get this done in a couple of days. So now it entices them to actually want to do a deal with me. If they don't want to do a deal after hearing that, then they don't want to do a deal, and that's fine. I also say, look, if you don't want to talk to me, cool, throw this away. But if you do, call me up. Again, that I don't want people who want to waste my time. I want guys who are serious, who are at least inquiring about a fair offer, and they really want to talk about it. So that way I can actually, see if we can work something out. If they're going like, I want $1 million for my property, I'm like, you're just wasting my time. Get out of here. Right. So I say, if you're not looking to sell or anything like that, or I got the wrong person, the wrong address, do not call me. I also do the same something similar. If I know they owe some back taxes, I'll be like, I won't give an offer. I'm like, look, you owe some back taxes. You may want to actually look at that. But I'll take care of your tax problem if you sell me your property. Now, this is not the exact ad copy I use, but just the general gist. That usually works pretty well. Now, another thing that I realize is that while I say how easy it is to work with me, a lot of people make so many hurdles in their quote unquote offer letters that make it harder for people to want to work with them. What do I mean by that? Well, they try to make it look like a fancy legal document when it's not. They try to say, well, I got to do the X, Y, and Z, and you got to mail me this thing back, and then I'm gonna call you. And that's too many steps in the process, which is like the more steps you make people do, the less likely they're going to want to do it. And that's dumb. They put all these other things like, hey, I'm a land investor, I have a family, I have 3 kids, I got a car. No one gives a shit. You're just adding more weight to the mailer. You're adding more paper, and that's going to cost you more money. Why would you do that? And at the end of the day, no one's going to read it. No one cares, right? Number 4, a lot of people do, they don't make it easy to actually contact them. I have one method, email or call me. I say call or text. Use this phone number. There's no website, there's no email, there's none of that. Call or text. Makes it simple. Now, am I leaving money on the table by not giving other ways to communicate? I don't think so, because everybody should have a phone. Now, sure, it's possible that if you have like this fancy website, you can have them put in all their information and all that. But in my experience, most people don't know all that information that you're going to need to do proper due diligence. You don't, and like half the time, people barely remember they got property or how much tax they owe. So when they're on the phone with me, I can find that out with the phone or talking to them, looking things up from my initial like county research and just information I got from when I pulled my list and things like that. And then we can make a deal based on the information I have in front of me. Because if I'm doing it blind or somebody just blindly accepts my offer, which they can because it's an offer range, what are you going to do with that? You always got to get on the phone at some point. Sure, you can probably avoid it but the majority of times you're going to need to be on the phone. So having people mail back or send an email or go on the website, in my opinion, it's a waste. It's just more steps to complicate the process. So to recap, number 1, you got to get your offers right. Using just assessed values can work in low areas, but in general, you want to make sure that you're actually, the more detailed you get within reason, the more accurate your offers can be, the more likely you're going to get some people actually willing to communicate with you. 2, you got to make sure that you're sending postcards as opposed to letters. I've done both. Postcards give me better results and they're much cheaper. 3, make sure that when you're doing this, it is very easy for the person to call you up and work with you. You explain the process quickly, efficiently in a postcard so they know what they're getting into and that they can actually understand the process so they don't feel like they need to ask 1,000,001 questions. Again, the more steps you put in the process, the less likely they're going to do it. So maybe you see an error in how you're looking to get offers. Maybe you see as something that you can improve. Maybe it's not necessarily totally bad, but you can do something better. But here's a bonus tip that I didn't have wrote in my notes. But here's a bonus tip. You're probably not getting enough offers out. And I'm not talking about just sending out mailers. I'm talking about having enough conversations. No matter what line of business you're in, you make money, but the more conversations you have, the more, I'm gonna say this, the more meaningful and income producing like conversation you have, the more money you're gonna make. You just can't escape it. That's just what it is. Someone calling me now. So if you haven't been getting any deals, or you've been getting very few, it's because you're not having enough conversation. You're not getting enough stuff out there. You're not conversing with the right people. You're not understanding what the market wants. So hopefully without those tips, that can help you with your offer letters to improve them. But if you have any questions, let me know. Let me see if there are any questions before I end this bad boy. No, I think we're good. That's right, Eric. Everybody does read a postcard. It's so easy. It's hard not to read it. It's right in your face. A lot of times they're bright colors. But I think that's it. I think that's it. So you have any questions, you know what to do. Hit me up. I'll be glad to help you guys out with your land investing needs. But it's your boy, Coach Vic, signing out. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.